Greetings from GenCON 2015, right? I'm here with Cory Jones. I've been a little bit scared to talk to him because he's the man, the big man on campus. It's been 2 years. I'm finally getting an interview with the man. And so I'm here. I'm excited about Hex as always. What can you tell me? This is Eric Squire, Cory Jones. What's going on?
So far, GenCon's been great. It's, you know, the one con where we bring most of our dev team out and we get the chance to really interface with a lot of the Hex community. And that's been just absolutely incredible. We have a LAN center set up, so you can come and do drafts and win the posters, and we make some products that we sell here.
Right.
We try to make this sort of the one show right now while we're still tiny.
Sure.
The one show where we, really sort of put it all out there and give a chance to for people to come in and see us.
Right. So we had a couple of questions. So this is a question from me. Okay. Do we have an expected PvP release schedule? Something like 3 PvP sets and 1 PvE content patch, and are you trying to match these sets with each other? Okay,
so what you're asking is, are we going to have a fixed schedule for the release of PvE against,
or at least attempt one?
So what we're trying to do is we definitely want to have 3 PvP sets a year. We know that you have to have every 4 months a new PvE set. That's very, very important.
Right.
That is really the #1 thing that kills TCGs is that lack of new sets. So that's going to be fixed in stone. PvE won't be. What we're going to be doing is releasing content in between sets of PvP cards. So we give the players something to come back to, something sort of to sink their teeth into that's fresh.
Right.
But then the block system, which we've renamed now into chapters and books. What we're going to do is actually unlock pieces of the globe. That was always the plan and remains the plan. And so when you move into a new area, you're going to start into a new sets of cards that we're going to be thematically sort of linked to that area, and also be telling new stories, and then of course unlock new dungeons and city nodes and everything else.
Right.
So you're definitely going to see new PvE content for places on the globe unlock based on where the PvP card sets are. But in between those sets, we definitely want to put out more dungeons or unlock some new quests, or we just want to keep it fresh.
Right.
And so the great thing is, like, I see how excited people get when we have a new patch, or we have some new feature, and my goal, or we have the release celebration or a holiday or whatever it is, or when we get into all of our esports.
Right.
My goal is, or my dream is, that every week there's some reason you need to be logging into Hex because there's some new card you want, or some tournament you're a part of, or there's some new piece of the story unfolding. That's really the goal, is to keep the excitement super high every week.
Right.
And so how that relates back into when things release and how they release, it's going to be a little more flexible, right, because I want to just keep the excitement high.
Okay, so Phantom Blue Jay from Reddit asks, mobile versions.
What's Reddit?
Reddit is a forum. It's not your forum. It's community run. I'm kind of, an administrator over there. I kind of try to help out.
I think I've heard of this.
Yes, it's a thing.
I'm kidding. I read the Reddit threads, all of them, just like I read all of the Hex forum threads. I haven't actually chimed in on any of the Reddit threads. I didn't make an account. I just go over there to cry bitter, salty tears. But it's cool. It's cool.
So Phantom Blue Jay from Reddit asks, the mobile versions of Hex, Android and iOS would increase the community size drastically. Can more priority be given to releasing functional mobile client in the near future?
Unfortunately, no. This is the problem of trying to do what we're trying to do, which is build something way bigger than we have any right to try and build. Is that we have to do it in pieces, and right now 100% of our focus is going to be on the PvE.
Right.
So getting out that first big chunk of PvE is everyone's focus. The good news is the new patch actually had the new client, the new thin client, which Chris Woods rewrote from scratch, is actually set up to be mobile.
Right.
And so we've been doing back-end tech work to live the dream of mobile at some point.
Right.
But the biggest thing is it would take a really dedicated effort to redesign how a lot of the interface works for mobile, which is a pretty big challenge. And right now, all resources, the Eye of Sauron is squarely fixed on PvE, and we're going to
hear the Eye of Sauron is at CZE. All hail.
That's just an expression.
I know.
That's not a. It's just a terrible, obscure, weird expression. It's not a thing.
Not a thing. Anyways, with that, yeah, I remember Chris talking about how on mobile, like your memory size, you have to worry about that sort of thing. So
the things we've done lately have really actually set us up to be, I think, successful on the mobile platforms.
All right. Should we expect to see a competitive like ELO system coming online soon? Right now, it's a little ambiguous as far as how someone could make it into the GameForge 10K tournament.
Whoa. Put a 0 on there. It's a 100K tournament, not a 10K tournament.
Oh, wow. Completely got that wrong.
Right?
Correction. 100K tournament.
Yes, we actually already have a lot of the back end built. We're working on now is all the interfaces and all the structures for how you end up in a different bracketed system. We want to make it feel really good, like, hey, I achieved something by moving up in these brackets, and then how that relates to constructed or limited. We're building all that right now. That has actually been in development for quite a while. A lot of the tech is actually done. It's more about building sort of the reward structure, the graphical component, what does it look like to have these rankings, which is actually something that is still being worked on, and I think that will actually be out before the PvE stuff. So that one was really kind of far along. It's an important part because we want to.
I did not know it was that far along.
Oh yeah. The back end tech has been pretty much done.
Okay.
We have the 100K tournament coming up, or the 10K tournament, whichever one you guys want to join. And so we need to have some of that stuff done to actually make that all work.
Yeah. So on that note, can you speak to are we going to be taking points from other people, like when you win in constructed type of competitive matches, or are we going to more or less like reset every season type of points, or can you talk to that point at all, or not really?
Well, we have the ability to do whatever. The structure is pretty flexible. I've been talking to Chark a lot about this lately. Clearly, my goal is for people to feel a sense of progression, to feel like they're always working towards that next rank. I don't particularly care for the part where it feels like I've gone backwards. Within ranks, there may be some movement up and down, so you could potentially floor out and never go. Once you make gold, as an example, not that it's gold.
No,
once you make gold, you can never drop into silver, but you're going up through gold, you could go down through gold. So I think that's a fairly standard sort of mechanism you've seen in some other popular games.
Right.
I'm thinking that's probably along the lines of what we're going to do. Again, the goal is for it to feel good, and we try to minimize the feel bad moments. That said, I am a big fan of pleasure and pain, so I know that you're only going to feel as much pleasure as there is a little bit of pain mixed in. It's just how it works.
Right. Yeah. Well, if I gave you everything, gets more pleasurable when there's some pain involved.
Well, I say if I gave you everything in the game, you wouldn't get excited when you open a pack because you'd be like, I got everything.
Yeah.
So it has to have some challenges.
So I'm looking forward to the Mercenaries, especially after playing the arenas as much as I have, which isn't actually as much as a lot of other people. I'd really like to have something available, especially for that Zarlox fight. And so will we see Mercenaries in the launch of PvE?
Right now, I think the current plan is that Mercenaries are in the launch of PvE, but there are a lot of features that go into PvE. There's a dozen plus brand new features that go into PvE, that first campaign mode PvE unlock. And I think some of that stuff will be flexible. I think I definitely want to get out before the end of the year. So some of that stuff is cusp, so I'm not quite sure where it's going to land. Right now, the current plan is that yes, there will be champions, but again, I'm not going to commit to that because I think
everything is there are lots of cogs in the machine. Sure.
Yeah, with all that stuff though, you're going to see everything else sort of kind of rapid fire come in after that because that'll be the last of the really big core systems. The only other thing that's really some that have a little bit of tech challenges after that will be stronghold defense, which is something I'm very passionate about because it has a couple interesting warbles in it in terms of how you implement. But I think we should see those features sort of roll out pretty quickly after the big PvE launch.
Okay, and the Mercenaries are still working the same, where you'll be able to like side them in if you don't like. You're like, oh, it's Zarlox. Yep, I'm taking my Mercenary in there.
Yes, exactly.
All right, sweet. Shadow Iron Blood from the Hex forums asks, what's the status of the double back? Or if you can't answer that, what is the priority on it? He's excited about the double backs.
I know, me too. Double backs are another one that's behind PvE at this point. So it's still, we track everything in the game. So
it's already tracked.
Yeah, so everything is tracked.
When it comes out, like it'll backdate your information for the most part.
Maybe. let's not go crazy.
Yeah.
No, we do track everything, as you've seen with like the Stardust.
Right.
Like we can reward everyone who had rolled. So I'm not too concerned about that piece of it. The double back part, we're still, I mean, the tech isn't an incredible challenge because the database is built to track every card as an individual item. The issue is more about some of the implementation and how it actually plays. Just like with the PvE and the leveling system, we iterated 5 times on that to get to the place where we felt like this is it, this is the game that we want to play.
Right.
I feel like the double back may have some issues, and as we've been playing with it, there's some stuff that feels sort of unfun about some of the achievement system unlocks. So we're still playing with how we're going to have our final implementation work.
Right.
But the core of it, this idea that your cards have a permanence that allows them to sort of level and track them as you go, that stuff is all still definitely part of the plan. It's just how exactly we implement it.
Yeah.
But double back is a little lower priority than PvE, but it's still something that we want to get done, you know, as quickly as possible.
Like in the case of something like play a million of something, that might be a little bit off-putting for people.
Or the bigger problem is you're in a game and you are intentionally driving towards the achievements on those cards as opposed to trying to win the game, which sounds like, well, you made that choice, but as we've internally, when we've tested and played and sort of tried to judge how that feels, it actually doesn't feel very good.
No, optimally, I want to grind PvE while getting those achievements.
Exactly.
So that means that it incentivizes me. At least I feel like I'm double dipping. You know?
And that was problematic. And then also managing which cards are doing which ones unlocking what, and then having to know how to cycle those out because I already locked the achievements, so I don't want to play those guys anymore. I want to do new ones. There was a lot of issues.
A lot of design decisions you have to make.
And so and again, like, you know, when I first conceived basically all the core systems of Hex, a lot of it actually just flat out didn't work.
Right.
And as we got closer to actually playing some of it and testing it, it became clear that my ideas were really, really terrible. And that's when good game designers came in and said, oh yeah, well, we can make your terrible ideas good, we just have to change some stuff.
That's why you hire people.
Yeah, exactly. that's right.
That's why you hire people. All right, so here's the big one that a lot of people have been talking about, a little kind of controversial. Gold faucets are very minimal right now, and PvE will turn another one on. Most players probably don't understand the breakdown of why we can say that it's basically 70 cents to $1, and I'll just tell you the reason why we can say that is because of like the promos right now. They were going for about $3 on the forums or on the auction house, and so it took about like 3 hours to grind out enough gold to get one of those. And so if you do the math, that's 70 cents to $1 an hour, which is really good for PvE, for a free-to-play portion of the game as far as value.
You stop right there.
I mean, that's
incredible value.
That's incredible value. But what was the process for coming up with this very unique way of allowing free-to-play players a path to experience some of the pay portions of Hex that we see, and then and when we see more things, more AAs or similar things in the future, we can buy with gold and then sell in the auction house to those PvP players, the people with some money?
So there's a bunch of questions in there, but I'll say this. When it came to the economics of Hex, like a long time ago I talked about I had hired an economics professor who used to be a TCG designer I worked with to do his giant report. And part of that was working with Chark and myself to sort of understand how you can create an economy that works, that doesn't have inflation become a huge problem. We looked at all these different solutions, a central bank with an inflation index we talked about, these gnomes that run it. So in the end, what we figured out was
Hogwarts Bank.
Right. So if you have content that is very, very desirable and you have an open economy, what's going to occur is that the people who are playing for free that are earning the gold are able to be subsidized by the people that want to play, that don't mind paying and want to play draft or whatever, but still want some of the advantages that the gold offers. It created this beautiful synergy, and it's really driven by the market.
Right.
And in the end, I talk a lot about the free-to-play stuff and about how free-to-play games there is a design,
specific, like a curve, a bell curve or whatever.
There is free-to-play games are games, yes, of course, but they're also designed inside of parameters. I mean, they're 100% parameters where it's like, okay, make it super fun, then make it less fun until it's no fun unless you spend money to go back to what you loved before. So it's this strange curve, bounce curve, and with Hex, we're like, well, we're not doing any of that. That's ridiculous.
You can play the PvE content as much as you want.
Exactly. And so just getting the numbers right in terms terms of how much gold and what it costs, and letting, which we're not in control of because the secondary market controls it.
Right.
Making sure it's a free economy with the auction houses, making sure there's sexy content that people want that's for gold.
Those
we
AAs.
create this engine like the currents under the ocean, right? We create this engine that allows the free-to-play player to, as you said, make about $1 an hour playing the game, which is incredible because I don't feel like the people that are spending money on the game are salty about like, well, I wanted to buy some gold, or I had some extra packs, or I won a draft and I put it in the auction house to get gold. I don't feel like they're upset about that.
Right.
And the free-to-play players are like, I'm getting the ability to play this game for free in the truest sense of free-to-play of any game out there.
Right.
That is the reality. When I see people complain about, no, I didn't get a login reward, and I didn't get, those are all free-to-play nonsense tricks. And why are you asking for that? It's terrible, and it would make the game awful. And so we actually have a free-to-play game. You could go and play for free and earn stuff and get everything else in the game. It's ridiculous. So I feel like where we are right now is great. I feel the one thing is the gold faucets and sinks are maybe a little off, but when PvE comes out, it's not going to be a grind. There's so much content to go through. You're ambiently going to be getting gold, getting stuff you can sell for gold. There's some jackpot wins built into stuff, kind of like the Uranaz stuff.
Right.
I feel like your accumulation of gold will be easier to manage and feel better to manage, and give you the sense that you're able to spend as much as you want on Stardust or whatever else, and not have it feel overly grindy.
Right.
So we're being very, very careful about that, and that's where Cory Burkhart, one of the other guys that works for me, who also has an economics degree, and Shark and I spend a lot of time making sure that this stuff is all perfectly balanced.
Okay.
I hope that answers the question. It's kind of rambly, but...
Well, I thought it was really good. Yeah, and then we talked about this yesterday, so I think you hit all the high points from yesterday when we talked about it, too.
Sure.
So last question. So we had that really hard one, nice easy one at the end. Jadim Jedi, one of our XCCG Pro people, he wants to know if we're going to get some 40 card decks in the Proving Grounds, so that way we can like run some tournaments, like community-run tournaments, because some people want to have the option to do some sort of a draft tournament that's community-run.
That's the first I've heard of this. That's an interesting idea.
We want it. Or maybe only like if they're on your buddy list, like you could just challenge them to 40 card.
Okay, that's interesting. Like I'll definitely talk to Alex about it. That's one of those. You know, the only thing we limit the formats only because the audience is still growing, and it's getting to be a good size. Like for me, and I draft all hours of the day and night. Right. And I never
a bunch of pseudonyms, so you'll never know it's him.
There's actually only one secret account, but I'm never waiting more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes for a draft.
Right.
So I've heard people online asking, like, well, do they draft fire? Yeah, they fire once or twice a day. I'm like, you kidding me? I get in drafts at 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, and they're firing within 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah. And sometimes in just seconds. So
the longest I think I've ever waited is about 30 minutes. That's
really? That must have been like a really off time.
It was, it was a Sunday. I usually draft on Sundays, so yeah.
But the reality is, the more formats that you put out there, you're fragmenting your audience, and then it makes it then no one's happy. So we have to be really careful. But the solution of like your friends list and challenging them to a 40-card game
might be okay.
That might be okay. So that's an interesting idea. We'll definitely, I'll definitely talk to the guys.
All right. Is there anything you want to talk about with like PvE content here at the con at all, or?
Yeah. So the great thing is, and I'm sure we'll be having an update relatively soon.
Okay.
We've been showing off some dungeon stuff here.
Wait, what? You were showing off dungeon stuff?
Yes.
Am I at this con?
Clearly, there are people posting it online. They're talking about it. We're showing off just a first little techie piece of the dungeon stuff. We're showing off a new battle board. And we're showing some of clicking on nodes and it gives you dialogue trees and what you can choose. The one thing you can't hear here is the ambient sound. Our sound has gone through the roof in terms of quality. It's crazy.
Yeah, in fact, somebody told me to talk about that on my last Deck Building at the Squire show, and I completely missed it. So yeah, I will say that the sound is so much better in the new game. The only thing that got a little annoying is like every time you zoom in and zoom out, there's that sound, but there's a checkbox for that. So I was like, I probably need to just shut that off. But it's still the sound is it's definitely stepping up. You guys didn't have to do that.
No,
you didn't have to throw on sounds to the cards when they come into play, but you did it anyways, and it really added an extra dimension to the game.
We've got a 2-man sound crew, and they're very passionate about the game, and I love them both. Like the great thing is every stone we can unturn to make the game feel more immersive, more deep, because in reality we're not a 3D MMO like the World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
We have to try and find we had to find all these great places to make you feel immersed, especially once we get to the PvE part. And that's where you'll notice, like, one of the things we're doing in the PvE area is the menus are going to have effects on them that are affected by the environments. We're trying to make it feel immersive and not just like menus. So there's a ton of work that's going into that. But ultimately, I'm very, very happy to be showing people the first little tidbit of the dungeons. And we have Ben Stoll's, the talent tree that Ben put together for the Warriors. That's online.
Right.
I've seen pictures.
I've seen. Yeah, they let us post those. Okay, so I did know about the PvE content, but I didn't know what we could or couldn't say.
I didn't want to call you a liar. Didn't seem like my place.
I know. But yeah, we aren't allowed to actually show the maps and things just yet because they want to control that. But they have put out the talent tree for the Warrior.
We're gonna have a big update coming where we're gonna talk about the stuff we show, and we're gonna be at Gamescom. Actually, Ben and I are flying from here to Germany for Gamescom.
Wow, when's that happening? Like tomorrow?
No, we fly out on Monday, so it's next weekend is Gamescom.
Oh, for some reason I thought it was this weekend. Okay.
No, last year it was. I flew from there to here.
Yeah, I remember that.
This year it's 1 week off.
Very tired.
The talent tree, though, if you look at it, though, how deep it is, and and the funny thing is, like, each of this there's race and talent trees, and how they lock up is interesting. But then for all the different classes play so differently. Like the Warlock is really hyper ticky-tacky complex,
right?
So that is a very different experience than playing the Warrior,
right?
And I'm excited for people to finally get a chance to see what we're doing with the talent trees, and once they see all of the classes, they're going to be pretty blown away.
All right, Cory. Well, that's all the questions I've got for you. Is there anything else you want to bring up right now?
I think that's it.
Oh, well, it's such a great interview. Great to meet you.
Yes.
And again, I guess.
Yeah, you've met me before.
I've met you before, but so until next time, this is Eric Squire signing off, saying God bless your families, trying to rage too much. Cory Jones, you don't have a sign off. You're going to get a sign off. I keep pushing people to get a sign off.
I sign off with thank you for backing the Kickstarter. Thank you for playing Hex. Without all the people playing in the community, we would be not here.